Hey, how are you doing, everybody, and welcome back into the SFS channel. My name is Gavin, and today we're going to be talking some early Week 13 waiver wire pickups with my top 10 options here. Early on a Monday morning, we still have Monday Night Football to be played yet here for Week 12. But after Sunday afternoon's games, I want to get your guys' heads thinking about some of these players that we should try to go out and add for this coming week's action. So we had a lot of running back injuries this past week and a lot of news regarding the health and availability status for a lot of fantasy's top backs this past Sunday afternoon. So that results in us having 7, yes, you heard me correctly, 7 running backs make the list as prospective players to add for this week. Because again, we could be without potentially 2 of my weekly top 3 running backs this coming week due to injury. So make sure to drop down, click that subscribe button, and turn the bell on if you're new around here so you're never late for an episode or a piece of fantasy advice. We post fantasy videos like this every day, and this is just one of 3 episodes that I have going up for you guys this Monday morning here to kick off Week 13 action. So with that being said, top 10 waiver wire ads for Week 13. Hit the intro, and let's get into it. Alrighty, so here we go. We don't have to spend an overly large amount of time talking about each of these individual players, as again, we do have 10 of them, so we want to keep this episode rather efficient so you can get off and watching some of our other videos we put up today. But we will talk through the situations and the opportunities opened up in the backfields for those 7 running backs, and then we'll get into our other 3 players for today. And one honorable mention who could potentially find himself in a valuable situation. Alexander Mattison, clearly, though, is my priority ad for this week, with Dalvin Cook leaving the Sunday afternoon game against San Francisco, being carted off the field with a shoulder injury. Now, it was reported initially that it could be a knee, but then when he actually got back to the locker room, we learned more. It's a shoulder issue. So we don't have an official diagnosis at the time of recording this episode, and I don't have any specifics to give you guys. Now, by the time you're watching this episode, potentially, or even by the time this video is posted, as Adam Schefter seems to never sleep, we could have more news and information that is either of the good or bad nature regarding Dalvin Cook's health. But if Alexander Mattison is the lead tailback for Minnesota's backfield, that's a heck of a lot of fantasy usage. And for a player who really mirrors Dalvin Cook's play style quite well, this is a valuable offense to take control of that role in. And he's a player who I think is a weekly lineup start because of Minnesota's running the football identity. So Alexander Mattison gets my priority ad for this week. Chuba Hubbard, another very similar situation here. I think that when you see Christian McCaffrey, again, exiting another contest early, similar to a Dalvin Cook, this is the second of those top 2 weekly running backs that had to exit a contest, and we might potentially be without in the near future here. Now, the Panthers do have a bye week, which is important. I'm really, really hoping that Christian McCaffrey is not going to miss more time because it's just been killer the last 2 years. But Chuba Hubbard is the next best thing that we have here in terms of a waiver wire option that could start games for us week in and week out for our fantasy team. So Chuba has his flaws. He's not a 3-down workhorse back. He kind of has stone hands. He's nowhere near the level of a pass catcher that Christian McCaffrey is. But he could potentially find himself starting games for this offense again. And that in itself is a valuable fantasy role and something that we want to have our eyes on. So Christian McCaffrey, the nature of the injury was that he rolled up on his ankle and then was seen in a walking boot after the game. So not good news. CMC's been dealing with a lot, hamstrings, ankles. I believe last year he had an issue with his shoulder as well. We're hoping the best for him here, but Chuba Hubbard is a nice insurance policy that hopefully all CMC owners already have possession of on their rosters, but if not, you need to go out and make this move. Tony Pollard for the Dallas Cowboys, another situation. So this is an important one to watch here, whereas Chuba Hubbard is on bye this week and you could stash him on your bench. Tony Pollard might actually get the start as the Cowboys are contemplating shutting Ezekiel Elliott's knee down and giving that some time to rest up and heal here. They play a short week. Thursday night, they've got the Saints. That's a tough matchup to play on the ground, but Tony Pollard is, again, a serviceable lineup option. He's the more explosive of these 2 running backs, and we've seen him have productive outings even as the number 2 punch to Ezekiel Elliott in this Dallas offense. So Tony Pollard, another valuable add at the running back position. We're just getting started here. Jamaal Williams, DeAndre Swift gets banged up this week. He has a shoulder sprain. We'll see how long that holds him out. This could potentially mean some valuable reps, valuable starts for Jamaal Williams. Now, it doesn't seem like it's going to be a long-term issue for DeAndre Swift. His availability for this coming week is in question right now, so it's no guarantee that he's out, but it's also not a guarantee that he's in. So I'm definitely putting Jamaal Williams a step or two below these other players on the priority ads list of players available in your leagues, but Jamal's a very complete running back. The running back position in this Detroit offense is a very valuable role, as we see DeAndre Swift getting an unholy amount of touches on a game-to-game basis. Detroit is not often in football games late throughout the contest, and they can get some bad game scripts. But Jamaal Williams, again, as a guy who can catch passes and play physical smash mouth running the football offense, I think he could be serviceable in the event he's given the opportunity to start. Deontay Foreman, another running back here. We're just getting them all out of the way. For the Tennessee Titans, had a strong rushing outing on the ground in Tennessee's loss to the New England Patriots, one of the hottest teams in the AFC right now. You probably actually heard that be said a bajillion times by Scott Hansen on NFL Red Zone, so I apologize for repeating that there. But Deontay Foreman, over 100 yards, like I said. This isn't a situation where I think you're going to get a great upside out of Deontay Foreman. He did lose a fumble, so he lost a couple points in that phase of things, and we'll get into his teammate here in just a second. But the Titans have to run the football with Derrick Henry out, and that's an identity of their team. And Dontrell Hilliard is more of the lightning, if you will, to Deontay Foreman's thunder. He's the more explosive back, had a 60-plus yard rushing touchdown on a halfback draw right before halftime. And you never know here. There's a lot of volume and touches that need to be replaced for Derrick Henry in this offense. And McNichols was out this week, which is big. That's something to watch. Maybe Dontrell Hilliard's utility and overall volume in a per-game basis declines once McNichols returns, if he's able to do so in the near future here. But for now, Dontrell Hilliard looks like he has a nice little role carved out. Neither of these two running backs are workhorses. That's why they're lower on the list. I think their ceiling as a whole is lower than other players that I've got higher up on the must-adds rankings for this week. Now, they're not technically rankings. They're not supposed to be in any particular order. But again, just noting these aren't quite as valuable adds as some of those other players. Tevin Coleman, another one. Michael Carter is on the injured reserve. He's dealing with an ankle bug right now. And Tevin Coleman this week stepped up against Houston and really took over the backfield for the New York Jets. I thought Ty Johnson was going to be the guy in line for a lot of touches, but we saw Tevin Coleman handle a healthy amount of the opportunities in this rushing offense. I don't think this is anything spectacular for a play here. 16 rushes for 67 yards, added 2 catches for 3 yards on top of that, but it's a starting level running back. And in some matchups now, the Jets do have a tougher closing schedule for opposing fantasy running back matchups. But again, there's some value to be had here. And starting running backs on NFL rosters deserve our roster places in our fantasy leagues, unless you're the Houston Texans. Now, maybe David Johnson and Rex Burkhead have some lineup utility as well, and clearly Tevin Coleman is one of the lower end starting level NFL running backs in the league in terms of how it reflects to our fantasy lineups. But again, in deeper leagues, you never know what might happen. So keep your eye out for Tevin Coleman this week. I think that he will, at the end of the day, put up some lower end RB2 numbers at the absolute best. Chances are, though, he is well within the RB3 category on a week-to-week basis while he's a starter for this team. Finally, out of the running back group now. So into Russell Gage. We had him as a must-add last week. He played fantastic this week against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Russell Gage, 6 catches on 7 targets, 62 yards receiving. That is a season high and a touchdown. He's the number 1 pass catcher outside of Kyle Pitts, at least in terms of the wide receiver position, as long as Calvin Ridley is out for this Falcons team. At this point, I'm not really banking on the fact that Calvin Ridley is going to return, and I'm not banking on the fact that he won't either, but what this does mean is that Russell Gage has a nice little role carved out for himself for the time being. So he's not going to give you probably wide receiver 2 numbers every week, but what he can be is a quality and serviceable flex play in lineups that is able to be started here and there. Maybe in PPR formats, he has a little bit more usage. He's no groundbreaking talent or anything spectacular in that phase of things, but he is a player that Matt Ryan trusts. He's been in this offense for a few years now, and he is getting the most footballs headed his way. Again, Kyle Pitts clearly has a higher ceiling. He's clearly a better fantasy player than Russell Gage, but Russell Gage was a player we liked during draft season. For various purposes, he saw over 100 targets a season ago. Hasn't quite lived up to our sleeper level expectations for him yet this season, but now he's got the opportunity to take that step forward in this offense. Kadarius Toney did not play this week, but still a player who I think has the potential to take some steps forward, show some explosive flashes down the stretch here. And Des Bryant said it best. Now that Jason Garrett's out of town, Kadarius Toney, you will be able to enjoy your career as an NFL player. Now, maybe that's a bit harsh. Maybe that's a bit extreme. The Giants won a ugly 13-7 football game. It was quite the boring outing for those two teams. Again, Sterling Shepard and Kadarius Toney were out in this matchup, so that was a big blow for the Giants passing game. Saquon Barkley didn't really get it going on the ground, but Kadarius has so much talent. He has the opportunity when he is healthy, and that's something that he needs to figure out here, as he's just been really dinged up this season. If he can stay healthy and on the field, he's got a lot of talent, and he is a playmaker. So I believe in what he can do as an athlete and underneath target in this offense. He could potentially make some fireworks here. So this is a deep bench stash in 12, 14, 16-man leagues. Maybe he doesn't even find a home in a 12-man league, but I think there is, again, that potential upside in a 1 or 2 flex league, even if you're finding some of those deeper, not necessarily even your bench being super deep, but if you're in a league where you're starting lots of players and don't have a super deep bench, Kadarius Toney could be, again, one of those nice high upside starts for you. But, again, probably towards the lower end of the spectrum because it is mostly an upside play. There's not much floor to be had here. And then Carson Wentz, heading out of this game, is currently the QB12 right now. He's putting up some decent numbers. A QB12 is, or the QB12 rather, is a QB1 in 12-team leagues. So this is a player that needs to be rostered right now. While Cam Newton significantly pulled back this week, he did have a rushing touchdown and looked very good early in that contest, but then was, 5 of 21 passing and had like a 5.8 QB rating. That is not good numbers. Carson Wentz came out and thrived against a very aggressive Tampa Bay defense, 306 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. He did have 3 turnovers against Tampa Bay, but at the end of the day, Carson Wentz is, again, a playmaker. He's going to take shots downfield between him and Michael Pittman. Jonathan Taylor keeping himself as the motor and core of this offense that gets the rest of that group going. T.Y. Hilton was out there on the field, and there are some other players making big plays for Wentz in this Colts offense. Look, if he's not your starting quarterback, which hopefully that isn't the case for your fantasy rosters, he can be a very serviceable number 2. So, again, a nice bench stash is Carson Wentz. Go take a peek at him if you're in need of someone to fill that position for your teams. Alrighty, those were my top 10 must-add players, again, for Week 13 fantasy action. If you've got any questions for me, drop those down in the comment section below. And again, remember to click that subscribe button before you head on out of here. We post fantasy content every day, Monday through Friday, and get you guys set up to have great weeks and great opportunities to pick up wins in your fantasy matchups. So thank you guys so much for watching. Go check out our other 2 episodes we posted today, and I'll see you there. Peace out.